Hello, welcome to the 28th day of September 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video exercise that I do every morning at around 5:30 a.m. from here in Japan to remember and think about my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, and also to see how yesterday did relative to these. Just a little bit of drizzle just started coming down. Let me pull my whole standing desk in just a little bit to keep the wood out of the rain. Now I have to be careful not to walk into it. Let's do a quick check of the temperature and humidity right now before we get started. It's 20, just a little over 20 degrees and 80% humidity right now. 20 and 80. Record that down. All right. Quick welcome to new subscribers to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Quick note that this is a private, so to speak, but public journal entry, this video. So think of this as you looking over my shoulder while I write in my journal. It's private to the extent that I am basically ignoring any comments that come in while I'm underway. This is a mental exercise to deliberate on the last 24 hours, mostly, to tune myself, to try to spot where I've got, things I need to work on, or spot where I've done well, so that I can do more of the same. I'll pick my camera up just a little bit so it doesn't get wet. So as such, it's private, but it's public because you're welcome to watch and leave comments and criticisms if you like, and I'll read them at the end. I also, though, like I've said several times now, focus on the last 24 hours because that's the canvas of the most recent canvas of events in my life where I can focus on improvement. And then also I want to let you know that I do often reliably talk about subjects that can make some people nervous, like death. So just be forewarned. And finally, a huge thank you to my YouTube viewers, my supporters on Patreon, and my members on YouTube. I really do appreciate your support. With that, let's go ahead and read some of the comments. I'm going to move the camera right here for now, so that I want to make sure it's safe out of the rain, because I do have a hold on, everything's getting wet. Just a second. Let me take care of this situation. Pleasant rain though, huh? It's really coming down now. Yeah, I could just leave that there. See, if I leave this wood out, I've got this beautiful piece of wood that I bought that I use as my outdoor table. It's got a beautiful patina of age. It sat in a farmhouse barn for a long time, and I don't want to damage the patina in any way. So I'll just sit here. We can listen to the rain together. Okay, let's get to it. So, with regard to the last 24 hours, I only have one note here, and it says that it was a day of floating, which, if you've watched enough of these, you know what that means. I first started calling that the peaceful, easy feeling, or PEF, which kind of is an experience that began to emerge about 8 months into retirement, where I started to feel easy about this good life, this new life, which then became something that I'm calling floating, which is the state that I kind of exist in when I'm able to just enjoy the day without feeling like I should be doing something. You know, even during the weekends, back during my productive years, I felt like I needed to be working or striving after something, if not for my vocation, to make a buck, to make a living, at least to in pursuit of some sort of a life objective, some life purpose, some contrived avocation. Now I don't really feel a drive to do either of those things. It's not the kind of feeling that would allow me to sit and just watch TV for hours, but it's the type of feeling that allows me to enjoy a nice Saturday with my family without feeling like I should be doing something more. You know, it's the sense of satisfaction, the peace that comes after a good job is done, after a good day's work is done. I don't think that freedom alone can yield this. I don't think that winning the lottery at age 40 would grant this in the same way. I do believe, though, that seeing your child raised successfully until they're out on their own, or completing a career that you're proud of, or serving some, time in some useful service, whatever that may be, dedicating ourselves to something that we think is important and useful to the world. I'm thinking of Evelyn in particular and her life's work with helping animals. That's the kind of thing that can lead to floating. You can't win your way to floating. You can win your way to freedom, but that's another thing altogether. So yesterday's note, a day of floating, a prize. Yesterday I didn't really feel challenged by much of anything, even less so by virtue of the fact that if I didn't really have to drive yesterday, the few outings that we did, my sister-in-law Yoko volunteered to drive, which meant I was kind of like a kid on an outing with their parents. I didn't have to think about it. I could just stare out the window at Japan, which I enjoy doing. Japan's a fun place to be a passenger in a car. I think someone could write a whole book on that. Everybody that's been here knows that feeling. Yep, so yesterday was just a day of floating. Not much to say about that. My creed consists of the following 8 objectives: to be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of my time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions relative to my creed, to do just one thing at a time and do the thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, to keep my balance, and to recognize my true limits and true opportunities. Boy, if anyone knows better, they certainly saw how I butchered that, didn't I? I got all 8 of them, but certainly not in the right order. But that's okay. I forgot also that I'm in the process of reading from the book for one of the objectives. In this case, objective number 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Let's go ahead and read it. This would be in Going Alone in the chapter titled The Good Life, page 249 of the hardbound edition. To develop and maintain good and sound life principles, and objectives too. And then there's a quote here, a Roman proverb: do justice and let the skies fall. I will secure early in life good rules to live by, objectives and principles which are accurate and true. I will then dedicate some time each day to using, testing, and refining these objectives and principles. Over time, I will make a small catalog of only the soundest truths I have found, which I will then number and recount each day for the purpose of further discovery and self-guidance. Finally, I will share what I have found through the example of my words and actions and my best effort of living a good and sound life. All right, as for today, it's a Sunday. I have no decided or determined plans for today other than to simply enjoy the day with my wife and my sister-in-law. I believe that they have planned for us something that we're going to do somewhere. They told me that something that we're going to do somewhere starts at 9:30 this morning. So I have a few hours to maybe float a bit. Let's read comments. Tim, hi Tim, good morning. Weather check for the UK at 9:36 p.m. is 12.1 C and 82% humidity. Pleasant walking day and Antiques Fair day. Ooh, UK Antiques, that must be a lot of fun. Hello, Robert. Robert says hello to Tim and myself. 73 degrees Fahrenheit and 70% humidity with an air quality of 38 in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. Nice. Tim says hi to Robert. There's Evelyn saying hi to Robert and Tim. Hello, Evelyn. There's Robert saying hi to Evelyn. There's Tim saying hi to Evelyn. Robert says, for whoever may benefit from seeing this, it's the time you feel like quitting. It's at the time you feel like quitting. This is the time you need to keep going. This is where breakthroughs happen. I think you're right. Hello, Erica. Hi, Kurt. Hi, all, she says. Robert says hello to Erica. Erica says hi to Robert. Evelyn says hi to Erica. Erica says hi to Evelyn. Tim says, I still get those days in retirement where if I don't have anything planned and I'm not that productive or I don't do much, then I question what have I done today? Nothing. Robert says, I agree, Kurt. Japan is so very scenic in every way. Sure is. Evelyn says, do animal shelters or sanctuaries exist in Japan? There must be. Yes, they do. They're not as frequent as you can. I don't know what it's like in outside of California, but California is a place where any community of any relative size, anything that's a city, will have a shelter of some sort. A shelter that's probably run either by the county or the city itself, or both, and then a handful of private, shelters run by citizens that just love animals and of various sorts. It's a very shelter-centric area of. I'm sure that's probably the case throughout the United States, but I can't speak authoritatively for anywhere other than Southern California, LA. Here in Japan, they have shelters that are run by volunteers in various parts of Japan. They tend to be breed-centric, Akita shelters, Shiba Inu shelters, things like that. On the flip side, though, the need isn't quite the same. Like, Evelyn, you just wouldn't see. I mean, it would be like seeing Bigfoot to see a stray dog on the streets here in Japan. So the need isn't there. I mean, in Japan, people treat their dogs, and probably you're going to think, and I would agree with you, that this is pretty much ideal. This is how it should be around the world. This is not me being a Japanophile. This is me just stating that I think Japan's got this figured out. They treat their pets like their kids. Like, you just wouldn't you just wouldn't dump your kid on the street. I mean, only some people do, but some people might. But that would be a very rare thing in any circumstance for somebody to do that. Pets here tend to be like that. I can't imagine seeing a stray dog on the street. If that happened, it would have been a dog that somehow got away from its owner and would be quickly retrieved. Also, pets tend to be chipped, spayed, neutered. I mean, Japan's got their shit together when it comes to handling animals. To that extent, there's other things, right, that aren't so good. I mean, just as recently as a couple of decades ago, some dogs would be treated like workmen, like junkyard dogs, right? You don't see that as much anymore. Dogs pretty much are cherished pets now. Sorry if I'm going on and on about it, answering your question now, Evelyn. I thought you might be interested in that. So I don't see it as much as a problem here. Although, and this happened recently, Yumiko and I were talking to a woman, and she was asking after the biography of our two dogs, and we were telling her how we got them from America, and she had asked, if they came from shelters. She was aware of shelters, and she lamented that Japan doesn't have shelters because her pet had died, and she wanted to get a new dog, but she wanted to rescue a dog. She was aware of how we do it in the States, and she wanted to rescue a dog, but she just mentioned that she couldn't. And I did mention to her that there are targeted shelters around Japan, so she could if she wanted to, but she'd have to work at it. That was a long-winded answer, huh? Tim says, and then that slight guilt that kicks in. Yeah, it's hard to get over it. And I have friends that don't seem to suffer that at all, and they're productive people. They seem to be able to, either they don't feel it or whatnot, or I don't know what it is, but yeah, there's that guilt. And for you, even 2 years in, Tim, still feeling it. I'm glad you said that, because it gives me a heads up that if it still hasn't gone away in a year or so, that I'm not alone. Tim says, I'm trying to learn that sometimes doing nothing is okay. It doesn't matter. Well, yeah, it is okay. That it doesn't matter point. Boy, that's a deep well. I won't go down that well this morning. It's too deep a well for a Sunday morning. I know it's not because I want to challenge you in any way, Tim. It's just that the idea that it doesn't matter opens the door for very interesting considerations that may be tangential to the point that you made. You put a few words together that struck a resonant chord in my mind, a favorite fun topic, a thread that I like to think about. But I'm not going to go down that thread now. Robert says, indeed, Tim, our energy ebbs and flows. Sometimes nothing is exactly the best thing for you, to do for yourself. I think of, and Evelyn will appreciate this, and Tim might appreciate it too. I think about Dr. Johnson sometimes when I have nothing to do. And because Dr. Johnson lived a good portion of his later life alone after his wife Teddy died, and he became disconnected from Mrs. Fowl, was that her name? And all he had was Francis, the Negro servant. And I'm using the nomenclature, the way that Negro servant, the way that he would have been described at the time, right? I mean, he had a freed black boy that Johnson had hired as a servant that worked in his house, that kind of became like a son to Johnson. Johnson actually wound up bequeathing his entire estate, or most of it, to Francis. And but Francis was really all he had, and he doesn't show up very much in his writing, although he was clearly important to Johnson. Johnson was a very benevolent man. But I think sometimes of Johnson in those latter years, with that ill health, sitting alone in his home. And I know he didn't deal with solitude well. And he was certainly a man of productivity, right? And sitting there alone, with his various ills and ails, and his horrible, overarching concern about the fate of his soul. He was a very religious man who believed in hell and believed that he wasn't worthy to go to heaven. So haunted by all that and his awful fear of death. How did he deal with that time alone when he wasn't productive, or he was incapable of being productive? And I think he was tormented, I expect. And it saddens me to think so. Tim says, well, when you're at the antique market, wait a minute. When you're at the antique market, is it acceptable to barter on an item for sale? Do you make an offer, like here at a fair? I will ask the seller on an item, what is the best you can do on this? Oh yeah, Japanese people do that. I don't. I either take or leave whatever price they tell me it is. But you can definitely do that here. Julie says, I noticed another YouTube channel showing a pack of feral dogs in their new Japan neighborhood, so this must depend on the region. Wow, I wonder if that's down in Okinawa. I've heard of such things down in the warmer parts of Japan, Okinawa or Kyushu. Never encountered it myself, but that doesn't sound like Japan. Boy, a pack of feral dogs. It doesn't sound like Japan, but I'm sure it is. I'm not questioning your sources. Julie, just saying that it's not like Shizuoka. But then again, few places are. Shizuoka, just so you know a little bit of what the history is of this city. This was the retirement home of the shoguns. This is where when the great samurai leaders of Japan would finish ruling the country, they would come and they would retire here at a castle about 3 kilometers from where I am right now. And at the end of the feudal period, when the Meiji Restoration began in 1868, the conquered shogun and his, the last shogun, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, and his entourage of samurai lords came and settled here. Shizuoka is a very classy place. It's like, I don't know if you over in England, Tim, have some city where it would be like the I don't know, maybe like Oxford maybe, or Cambridge. It's kind of like that, I guess. I've been to Cambridge. It felt like Cambridge, where I mean it's a very uppity, tooty, snooty kind of a feel to this place, even though it's countryside where I live exactly here. Right around here, it's a very kind of an upper class feel. If the money isn't gone, at least the sensibilities are still here. So maybe that's part of what I'm experiencing here. The idea of feral packs of dogs in Shizuoka would be like exactly like imagining a feral pack of dogs running amongst the college grounds of Cambridge. Right? It just isn't done. I imagine. Tim says to offer a price, clarifying your point. Yeah, you can definitely offer a price here, and you'll usually get it, but I don't. Sarah says, good morning, everyone. Hello, Sarah. Good morning to you. And I don't, let me just back up just a second. I don't say that I don't as like a source of pride, like I can't, like I can, I do it, I say I don't because I have lots of money or anything like that. I say I don't, the reason I say it that I don't is that the antiques here in Japan are incredibly cheap. I mean, I don't know how these people do it. I used to work among them. I used to be an antique dealer here. I know their lifestyle. I know how these people are living. The people that are doing it for a living, they're barely getting by. I mean, barely getting by. And the prices that they're asking are already rock bottom. So, and the people that ask for a lot of money for their items at the higher end antique dealers, I don't have any business with them. I don't operate in their area. The people that sell the stuff that I want to buy are already selling this stuff so low that if I was to, I couldn't live with myself. My conscience wouldn't allow me. In fact, I often do the opposite. Like yesterday, I was at the antique fair and I bought a little backpack, not an antique, but I bought a little backpack. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you. I bought this backpack, which actually comes from Germany. It's not a really super high-end backpack, but I needed something like a little bit of a mid-size for my little outings with Rudy. It's in perfect condition, mint condition, not a single, as is always the case here in Japan. I mean, it's just in perfect condition. What was that? Huh, the alarm went off or something made a sound. Anyway, the dealer was offering, asking 1,900 yen for it, which is like $13, right? And as I was picking it up and I had decided to buy it, I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, I wonder if she'll take 2,000. And it wasn't because I'm being very nice or that I'm rich or anything like that. It's just that it was like, it's worth 2,000. It's worth more than 2,000 yen. I was trying to find a way that I could like give her more because I know how hard these people's lives are. And so that's why I say that I always take what they give me or I don't, right? Because if I can either, because they're usually, if I've already discounted it to the point that that's not the case if you go to a place like Tokyo or like Kyoto. If you go to the antique festivals, at one of those big metropolitan centers where a lot of foreigners are, those dealers have upped the prices. You're right. It's a commercial market. Here, it's like Shizuoka. I mean, like I'm the only foreigners I ever see there. I see Dirk, and I see Alan. I know both of them. They're both two local foreigners that live in the area. There's no foreigners coming to the Shizuoka flea market to buy anything. The only people that are coming are curious, are other people that are kind of into this type of thing, that are working part-time jobs, and nobody has any money, so it's already cheap enough. I've gone on and on. Hopefully I've answered your question. Yes, it's a thing, but it's not a thing in the sphere where I operate. Oh, I guess the rain has stopped. I can put this back. Just a second. Did you hear the big boom just a second ago? That's a common thing this time of the year, that boom, and we might hear more. I don't know if you heard it, just a boom, it sounded like something exploded. Here in this time of the year, as the communities are doing their end of summer festivals, there's Kunioshida right over here, Yara where I live, the next one over, and then over and over. Each of them will have their festivals. Early in the morning, the way that the community, they have it at the festival shrine and park, and it's kind of the responsibility of the men in the community to come and help assemble the scaffolding for the festival and to clean up the park. I mean, the park's already clean, but you know what I mean, just to arrange everything. Usually it's a lot of heavy lifting. You have to go to, there's like a big warehouse thing near the park. Usually it's not in the park, but it's near the park. I'm using my own community as an example. And one of the village headmen, leaders, it's all men, will have a key and he'll unlock that, and you open it up, and there's a couple of old men that remember how to assemble the damn thing, and they'll kind of like stand by, and all the younger guys will hoist all these big beams, and we'll come to the community center and we'll assemble this big platform and get it all ready, and then send up the electricity and all that stuff, and that's getting ready for the festival that's going to happen. And then during the day, the children of the community during summer come together, and they practice the dancing and the drumming, and it's a real community fair. And the women's, their job is to shepherd the children to and from and get the children all trained. Well, the men, we do all the heavy lifting and etc. So you get the whole idea. It takes a village, right? Anyway, the boom that you just heard, if you heard it, was one of the nearby communities. I think it's coming from over there, which would be Kusanagi. They're summoning the men to come do that. It's not my community. It would be over here, and that's to remind all the sleepy-headed men that get up, get over here, we need you. It's an interesting little thing. Lots of comments. Sarah says, good morning to everyone. Hello, Sarah. Robert says hello to Sarah. Evelyn says, I don't understand what the retirement guilt is about, Tim and Kurt. I don't understand either, but I feel it. I feel guilty because I'm not working. And I feel like I need to get off my butt. Maybe it's a thing with men. I don't know. Could be a thing with men. I was definitely raised I was raised by a father who drilled that into me, that well, he drilled two things into me. You might find this interesting. One message came slow during my childhood. The other message came fast when I reached adulthood. The slow message during my childhood was that a good man is responsible and takes care of his family and works hard and doesn't rely on anybody to fill in any gaps, right? No missing gaps. I think that speaks a lot to my sense of guilt of not working. The second thing my father told me when I went off to college was, you're not coming back. Good luck. To you. You're not welcome back here if you need help, right? So I was basically told, a good man works hard all of his life, and you have nowhere to fall back on, Kurt. So if you fail, you're going to be homeless, live on the streets. So those two messages combined, Evelyn, probably set the stage for my current sensation that if I'm not working hard, something's wrong. Guilt might be the word I use. Maybe it's something more and deeper and more comprehensive than guilt. Julie says, yes, the old thought process will pop up on a regular basis, guilt or feeling lazy. Well, there's a woman saying that she feels the same way. Julie, so yeah, so maybe there's more than that. So maybe it's not just a men thing. And I didn't think it was, but I was just speculating out loud. And Julie's been retired for a while as well, so she's got that. Sarah says, are you still going for your sea swims, Kurt? The weather still seems warm there. I'm not. And it's really not for any other reason than it just hasn't been convenient. It's a little bit far away. It's a 25-minute drive to the closest beach where I could go for a swim. So just haven't done it. Maybe next summer. The season's passed. But yeah, no, I'm not swimming every day. Sarah says, I just read that. Tim says, I think the doesn't matter outlook is there's no point beating yourself up over it. It's only temporary. Hopefully you won't spend the rest of your life doing nothing in retirement. Well, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot there. I'm going to refrain from going down that pathway this morning. It's a deep and interesting pathway. It's not because I don't enjoy the pathway of it doesn't matter. The it doesn't matter pathway, and I may lead me to places that you're not implying, because I have maybe a different application of the word it doesn't matter, because it's more of my idea that the universe, that it really doesn't matter on the large scale of things. Nothing matters. But that's a deep well. I think I see what you're saying there, Tim, and I hope I can try to pull myself out of the route that I go down when I hear those words. Hopefully you won't spend the rest of your life doing nothing in retirement. LOL. See, that's the me and you, right? I feel the same way, Tim. At the same time, I wonder, I kind of envy those, and I have friends who are retired who do nothing and seem to enjoy it. I have others that do nothing and they're tortured by it. Humans are complex. Robert says, agree, Tim. Showing one's self-grace is highly recommended. It's something you can't run out of. Oh, I read that wrong. Showing one's self-grace. It's interesting how you can read it differently and the meaning's different. I get it what you're saying, Robert. Yeah, a little self-grace to oneself, right? Tim says to Evelyn, it's not a retirement guilt in itself. It's a guilt, like Kurt says, of not doing something productive or a good use of time that you felt more when you were in work. Exactly. And Evelyn, I'm confident that you would feel the same way. You're a woman of action. I mean, it's exactly what Tim said. It's not necessarily that I'm not working. Like I wouldn't, if I've been doing something productive, like out in the gardening, I wouldn't feel like it's, although there's a slight that lingers on. Like if I was gardening and my friends, my former coworkers, like are working, like I still have the calendar for my job on my phone, and it pops up meetings, and I don't know why I torture myself with this, but I do it. And this has actually happened. I've been out in the garden and a meeting popped up on my phone and a chime went off that the weekly change control meeting was starting at that moment. In 15 minutes, the weekly change control meeting was starting on my own job. And I actually do have a small tint of guilt, or maybe it's, jealousy from my former coworkers who are attending that meeting in 15 minutes, you know what I mean? But yeah, what Tim said, it's not work itself, it's productivity. And I expect that if we talked a little bit more, Evelyn would say, yeah, she knows that as well. Because Evelyn's not one to just let a day go. I believe, Evelyn, from what I know of you, you're not one to just let a day go by not lived well, right? Because that's what it comes down to. Lived well. Julie says, not Okinawa, but near Camino Kaido. I don't know where that is. It's a road, some sort of a road. Camino Kaido, I've never heard of it. I know Kaido means road. Interesting. I don't know where that is. Robert says, a friend of mine is currently in Okinawa. Ah. Robert says, hi, Julie. Robert says, oh, I love bargains. Tim says, there's a big variation in antique prices depending on the area in the UK. In the south, such as London, you will pay way more for a similar item further north in the country. It's the same here as well. Here in the north, or the east, in Tokyo, you'll pay way more for the item that you could get for a pittance here, right? Sarah says, I think when you've been working for so many years, it gets ingrained in you to be productive with your working day, as you have the constant feeling that your use of time will be judged by your employer. Exactly, Sarah. That's hard for me to get over, even though there's no one judging me anymore. Sarah adds, I don't look at it as a bad thing. I think we all benefit from feeling somewhat productive with our days. I agree. I don't think it's a bad thing either. Although I think it served its purpose at my age and at my circumstance in life. I don't need that feeling anymore. And in a way, it would be nice if I could shrug it off, because it doesn't, I mean, I'm confident that I'm going to make good use of my days with or without that attendant sense of guilt. So I agree. I think you've nailed it, Sarah. I think you reach an age where you don't need it anymore, but it's hard to give up. Robert says, I heard no big boom. Maybe I heard it in my mind. Julie says, yes, I still have to well, it is true also that this microphone doesn't pick up everything, right? Julie says, yes, I still have to consciously give myself permission to be totally unproductive every once in a while, a day of vacation. Yep. So, hallelujah, sister. I feel you. Tim says, the guilt of not working for me was really strong in the first months of retirement. Wasn't expecting that. That feeling, it's slowly going now, but still there a little after 2.5 years. Crazy. Evelyn says, I have to do something interesting or continue to be interested in. Yes, see, I knew you were one of us. the tribe of people who always have to be doing something interesting. Sarah says, I think it comes down to feeling useful. I think we put a lot of self-value in whether or not we are useful and contributing to society. I think you wrote it. I think you explained it perfectly, right? Tim says, the job calendar is funny. I still have my work computer passwords in my phone and strangely won't delete them. I won't delete the calendar. And I still, isn't that fun? Strange, Tim. Why do we do this? Why do we hang on to that vestige of, you know what it's like? This is going to sound a little bit gross. I'm going to go ahead and say it, and I think it will resonate the way I intended with those who are attending or who are here this morning or whatever it is for you and are commenting. It's a little bit like a serial killer keeping a souvenir of their crime. That's how it feels for me, having my calendar pop up meetings throughout the workday from my old life. Kind of gross, but it feels like a little diabolical in a way. And with that diabolical comment, I will begin to wrap things up. Tim says, it's a little part of work we still cling on to for maybe old times' sake. Yeah. Why does it feel dark to me? Like I shouldn't be doing it. It's not because I'm prying into my old work's business, watching meetings that probably don't exist. They're meetings that I set up. It's like a souvenir of a sort. Would it be a little bit like keeping a souvenir of the Titanic? It's a tragedy, right? Work was a tragedy. Yeah, it's okay. Anyway, enough of this. Thanks for some really interesting thoughts, everybody. Sarah says she likes that, the souvenir of a serial killer. Maybe more subversive than dark. Yeah. Oh, I love you guys are great. I love you are exactly, if I was to assemble like and we were at yesterday we got omusubi, which are rice balls from a specialty shop that we found on the other side of town. It started off as a food truck, and it's run by probably the only, I won't say that. It's run by a very interesting person. And immediately next door, an all-you-can-drink snack, which is like a small, tiny Japanese bar run by a man from Okinawa, speaking of Okinawa. And he opens his bar like at 11 a.m. and it runs until midnight. So he's like open like 12 hours. And I've seen him because he comes in and gets rice balls at lunch and then he disappears into his little place. And I was telling Yumiko after we were leaving, because he had the door open, I kind of peeked into the dark little Okinawa bar that he's got. I mean, he's probably got seats in there for 8 people at most. I was just going to say, if I was to, and I was telling Yumiko, I was saying, I want to walk it, because I could walk there from here. I want to walk there on a Friday night all alone and have drinks there at the all-you-can-drink thing and just get to know and maybe, ingratiate myself in. What do you guys think? Should I do it? But I was going to say, if I was to invite a group of friends to come join me at this Okinawan bar, all-you-can-drink bar, I'd invite all of you, because you're such an interesting and terrific group. Vinyl Jello. Hello, Vinyl Jello. I think this is the first time I've seen your name. The desire to be in the know, hanging out in the shadows. Well, I'm glad you spoke up. You are certainly welcome to come out of the shadows if you're referring to yourself in these. Where we do this every day, and you're welcome to join us whenever you like. And I hope you'll feel free to share your thoughts anytime. I'm glad to see you in comments. And see, there's Robert, our in-house greeter, saying hello as well. You can always count on Robert to say welcome everybody in. And Vinyl Jello says hello. Am I saying it right? Vinyl Jello, yeah, says hello back. Tim says, it's a weird one. I hang on to works past, but when they asked me to go back, I resoundingly said no, LOL, Tim. I just had one more little anecdote that you might find interesting on that note. A few days ago, Yumiko and I went to an antique fair, just like really right up there. They were having an antique market right there on top of that hill, because the art museum is up there. They're having this Rodin week, and at the Rodin wing, they had an exhibit, and they had an antique kind of a fair. Well, it was more like a community fair. And one of the antique dealers there, who I see once in a while at the places, he finally got screwed up the courage, because Japanese sometimes need that courage, to say, to me, he says, do you know a guy named Kurt? He didn't quite put it together, who used to work at a school here? And I said, yeah, that's me. And then he realized that I was somebody he knew. And it turns out that he used to go to the antique. Remember I told you guys about the Yakuza antique auction? The Yakuza run antique auction. Anyway, he was there. He remembered me from that, and he put 2 and 2 together, and he invited me back. He says, hey, if you want to come back to the Yakuza antique auction, you can come in and as my assistant, and because there's a new owner, maybe you can get to know the owner and get invited back, because it's an invitation-only thing. And to your point, Tim, I said no. But in Japan, you don't say no by saying no. You say no by not answering. So I didn't answer, which was no. And it was the same thing like you just said. They asked me if I wanted to come back to my old life, and I said no. So I'm like you feeling the same way. Sarah likes the idea of going to the Okinawa all-you-can-drink 8-seat bar, half a kilometer walk from my house. Let's go. I'm going to go. I think I'll go. Would you guys think I should go? Should I go by myself one night, just walk over there and pop in and get drunk and stumble home and end up sleeping on the side of the river because I can't find my way home? Vinyl Jello says, I'm here from time to time, mostly in the shadows, as it were. Well, you are welcome, shadows or not. Oh, you're always welcome here, Vinyl Jello. Although I hope please do not ever feel any hesitancy to join in the conversation. We're glad you're here. There, and Julie says, I love dive bars. Yes, indeed. If I knew we all would, right? Who doesn't? Tim says, I like the not answering. It's kind of leaves it open-ended. Yes, it does. That's another element of it, is not being so definitive. We Americans are very, cut and dry. It's a yes or a no, and that's it forever, and then I'll change my mind next week. And that's another thing about Americans, at least. We can change our minds next week and come back and say, about that thing I was so vociferous last week and saying no. Emerson wrote about this. Emerson once wrote, he wrote about consistency. He said, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. we should speak our minds with bold certitude as today. And then if tomorrow we change our mind, we should speak our certitude tomorrow with that same boldness. I'm paraphrasing poorly, but he was speaking to the American mind of, yeah, I definitely want to say no. And then next week it's a definite yes. My countrymen. Maybe other countries are like that too, but at least that Emerson was speaking to the American frame of mind. All right, I'll close at that. It's been a fun talk today, everybody. Hi, everybody. Have a great day. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care. And again, Viola Jello, I'm glad you spoke up. I'm glad it's good to hear your voice, so to speak. Take care. Bye bye.